Story number 1. The Honeymoon Horror, A Nightmare in Las Vegas. Mark and Jessica had just tied the knot and were ready to celebrate their honeymoon in the dazzling city of Las Vegas. After a long flight, they arrived at their luxury hotel, eager to start their romantic getaway. The hotel was grand, the lobby sparkling with chandeliers, and their suite on the 15th floor was advertised as one of the best. But the moment they stepped inside, something felt off. A foul, musty odor hung in the air, thick and putrid, like rotting meat. Jessica gagged, covering her nose. "Do you smell that?" she asked. Mark immediately called the front desk, demanding a room change. The manager, a man with a smooth, reassuring voice, apologized and explained that due to a massive convention in town, every room was booked. He promised to send a cleaning crew and offered them a free meal at a high-end restaurant while the problem was fixed. Trying to make the best of it, the couple went out, enjoying a candlelit dinner. But when they returned 2 hours later, the smell was still there, stronger even. Frustrated, Mark called the manager again. This time, housekeeping arrived in full force, scrubbing every surface, replacing linens, and spraying the room with heavy-duty air fresheners. When the cleaning crew left, Mark and Jessica hoped for relief. But as soon as they lay down, the odor seemed to seep into their very skin. It was unbearable. Something was horribly wrong. Determined to get to the bottom of it, Mark started tearing the room apart. He checked the bathroom, the closet, even behind the curtains. Nothing. Finally, he pulled back the covers of the bed and lifted the mattress. That's when he saw it. A pair of cold, lifeless eyes stared back at him. A woman's body, twisted and contorted, was stuffed inside the bed frame. Her skin was pale, mottled with dark bruises, her mouth frozen in a silent scream. The stench of death hit him like a tidal wave. Jessica shrieked, stumbling back in horror. The police arrived within minutes, and the hotel was thrown into chaos. Shockingly, they revealed that the woman had been there for days. Even more disturbing, the last registered guest in that room had checked out without a trace. Mark and Jessica left that night, their honeymoon ruined. But the nightmares never stopped. Even now, the thought lingers. Had they unknowingly slept on top of a corpse? Story number 2. The Stalker in Paradise, a Hawaiian honeymoon horror. Liam and Emily had dreamed of their honeymoon in Hawaii for years. The breathtaking beaches, the golden sunsets, the sound of waves crashing against the shore. It was supposed to be paradise. But paradise turned into a nightmare neither of them would ever forget. It all started on their second day in Oahu. After a long morning of exploring, they spent the afternoon lounging on the beach near their resort. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Emily excused herself to use the restroom. When she returned, her face was pale. "There was a man," she whispered. "He was just standing there, watching me. And when I tried to leave, he blocked my way. He only moved when some other people walked in." Liam sat up, his muscles tensing. "Where is he now?" Emily scanned the beach, but the man was gone. They decided not to let it ruin their trip, and even reported it to a nearby police officer patrolling the beach. That night, they enjoyed a romantic seafood dinner and wandered the lively streets before heading back to their room. It was nearly midnight when the knock came at the door. Liam, half asleep, frowned and checked the peephole. A man in a hotel-maid uniform stood outside. "Sir," the man said in a thick accent, "I cleaned your room earlier. I forget something inside. Please let me in." Something about his voice, the way he shifted on his feet, sent a shiver up Liam's spine. "That's impossible," Liam said. "We had the Do Not Disturb sign up all day." Before he could react, Emily let out a scream. "Liam, that's him! That's the man from the beach!" The man lunged, forcing his way into the room. Liam barely had time to react before a cold, calloused hand clamped around his throat. He struggled as the intruder reached behind him, pulling out a glinting knife. Emily, fueled by pure terror, grabbed the nearest thing she could, a heavy ceramic lamp, and smashed it into the man's head. He let out a guttural groan, stumbling backward as blood dripped down his face. Liam gasped for air and lunged forward, tackling him to the ground. The commotion sent nearby guests into a frenzy. Someone pounded on their door while another person screamed down the hall. Within minutes, hotel security and the police arrived, dragging the man away in cuffs. The true horror? He wasn't an employee. He wasn't even staying at the hotel. He had been watching them, following them. The knife he carried wasn't just for show. That night, Liam and Emily packed their bags. The honeymoon was over. Even years later, Emily still checks every peephole before opening a door. Because in paradise or not, monsters walk among us. Story number 3. Highway to Hell. A family's terrifying road trip. James, his wife Sarah, and their 2 kids, Olivia and Ethan, were on the road, making the long drive from New Jersey to Florida for their long-awaited Disney vacation.
It was supposed to be a magical trip, one filled with laughter, theme park rides, and childhood memories.
But as they passed through Georgia late at night, they found themselves in a nightmare straight out of a horror movie. It was nearly midnight, and the highway was eerily deserted. The only sounds were the steady hum of the tires and the occasional chirp of insects beyond the road. Sarah and the kids were fast asleep, leaving James alone with his thoughts as he drove. Then, in the distance, he spotted something unusual. 2 blinking red lights flickering on the pavement ahead. As he got closer, his stomach tightened. A car was parked sideways across the highway, completely blocking the road. Orange cones were placed on either side, and 2 men in hooded sweatshirts stood beside it, watching his car approach. James slowed down, his instincts screaming something wasn't right. One of the men stepped forward, motioning for him to stop. James cracked his window slightly. "Everything okay?" The man leaned in too close. His breath reeked of cigarettes. Yeah, car broke down. Open the door, man. Need some help." Something about his tone made James's skin crawl. His hand hovered over the gear shift. Then the man's expression changed. His other hand disappeared into his hoodie pocket. He was reaching for something. James didn't wait to find out what it was. He slammed the car into reverse, tires screeching as he backed up. The second man lunged toward the car, but James yanked the wheel, barely missing him as he sped away. For a split second, relief washed over him. But then, headlights. A second car, hidden in the darkness, peeled onto the road behind them. The chase was on. James gripped the wheel, his heart pounding. Sarah jolted awake, screaming as their car suddenly jerked forward. The men were ramming them from behind. Then bang! A loud pop echoed through the night. The car veered dangerously to the side. One of the tires had blown. Then another. They were shooting at them. James fought to keep control, but the car slowed. His kids were crying. Sarah was screaming into the phone, begging 911 for help. The other car pulled up beside them, and James could see one of the men leaning out of the passenger window, something gleaming in his hand. Then, salvation. A pair of flashing blue and red lights appeared in the rearview mirror. A siren wailed, cutting through the night like a divine intervention. The men in the other car immediately swerved, veering off at the next exit. The police car followed. James pulled onto the shoulder, his hands shaking so badly he could barely grip the steering wheel. When officers arrived minutes later, they confirmed the terrifying truth. This wasn't random. Other drivers had reported the same fake roadblock setup in recent weeks. The cops caught the men an hour later. Both had criminal records. James and his family made it to Florida, but the happiest place on earth couldn't erase what happened. Because now they knew, monsters don't hide under beds. They hide on empty roads, waiting for their next victim. Story number 4. The nightmare in St. Lucia. Lisa and her fiancé, Mark, were on their dream vacation in St. Lucia, a beautiful island known for its white sandy beaches and breathtaking landscapes. They had rented a car to explore the island's hidden gems, taking scenic routes far from the tourist spots. It was late in the afternoon when they found themselves on a narrow, winding road surrounded by dense jungle. The road was empty, silent, except for the occasional rustling in the trees. They hadn't seen another car in miles. Then up ahead, they spotted something unusual. A rusted-out abandoned car was half hidden in the thick vegetation on the side of the road. Mark slowed down. "That's weird," he muttered. "Looks like it crashed here a long time ago." Lisa felt uneasy. The air felt thicker, heavier. As Mark pulled the car over to check if someone needed help, Lisa gripped his arm. "I don't think we should stop." Mark, always the helpful type, smiled. "It's probably nothing, babe. Just gonna take a quick look." As he stepped out, Lisa's anxiety spiked. He walked toward the abandoned car and peered through the shattered window, his face instantly drained of color. Then, he stumbled backward, eyes wide with horror. Lisa jumped out of the car. "Mark? What's wrong?" She followed his gaze and saw it. Underneath the car, partially hidden by the overgrown foliage, were 2 men crouched in the dirt. Their faces were shadowed, but Lisa could see the glint of large knives in their hands. And between them, a lifeless body. The corpse's wide, vacant eyes stared at them, its throat sliced open. Lisa screamed. The 2 men moved fast, faster than anyone should. One of them grinned, a twisted, knowing smile, before reaching for something at his side. "Get in the car!" Mark roared, grabbing Lisa by the arm and shoving her into the driver's seat. Lisa barely had time to slam the door before Mark jumped in and locked it. The two men were now running toward them. Lisa floored the gas pedal. The tires spun in the loose gravel for a terrifying second before the car lurched forward, speeding down the narrow road. In the rearview mirror, she saw the men watching them go. Not chasing, not shouting, just watching. Like they knew something Lisa and Mark didn't. They didn't stop driving until they reached a town nearly 30 miles away. When they finally got to a police station and breathlessly told the officers what had happened, one of the cops just sighed. "We've heard similar stories," he admitted, "but we've never been able to find anything when we investigate." Lisa and Mark cut their trip short, flying home the next morning. And to this day, Lisa wonders, how many others have stopped at that abandoned car, and how many never made it out alive? Story number 5. The Cruise from Hell. For James, a 17-year-old high school senior, a luxurious Caribbean cruise with his family was supposed to be the highlight of his summer. The ship was massive, towering decks, grand ballrooms, and endless activities. It felt like a floating paradise. But for James, that paradise turned into a nightmare he would never forget. On the third night of the cruise, James and his older brother, Ryan, decided to sneak into the ship's nightclub. Ryan had a fake ID, and James simply borrowed someone else's cruise card. The club was dark and pulsing with neon lights, filled with tipsy tourists dancing and laughing. That's when James noticed him. A man much older, probably in his late 40s, sat in the corner, his piercing eyes locked onto James. He didn't move, didn't drink, didn't dance. He just watched.
James felt a cold shiver run down his spine.
Trying to shake off the unease, he left the club, walking towards the deck bar where his sister and her boyfriend were. But when he glanced across the bar, his stomach dropped. The same man was there, still watching him. Something was very, very wrong. Not wanting to freak out, James decided not to mention it. But as the night went on, he kept seeing the man, outside the restaurant, in the hallway near their rooms, even near the pool deck. James convinced himself he was overthinking it. That was until the next night. After a late dinner, James returned to his room alone. As he walked down the quiet hallway, he noticed something off. The door to his cabin was slightly open. He knew for a fact that he had locked it before leaving. His brother wasn't in the room. He was still at the nightclub. Heart pounding, James hesitated, then slowly pushed the door open. The room was dark, but something felt wrong. Then, movement in the shadows. Before he could react, a hand brushed against his face. James froze. Then, pure terror flooded his body as he realized someone was standing beside his bed. He let out a blood-curdling scream. Within seconds, Ryan and their parents were banging on the door, demanding to be let in. The figure in the darkness tried to move, but James shoved them with everything he had. When the light flicked on, there he was. The man from the nightclub. The man from the bar. The man who had been watching. Ryan tackled him, throwing punches until security arrived. The man was dragged out of the room, blood dripping from his nose, a twisted grin on his face. James later found out that the man had stolen a master key card. He had likely been watching James all along, waiting for the perfect moment. He was locked up in the ship's detention center until they reached port, but James never found out what happened to him afterward. One thing was for sure, James would never step foot on a cruise ship again.